Space Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is the show we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. Coming up on the show tonight, Sir Mark Rylance, star of the World War II film Dunkirk, has backed the White Poppy movement. The organisers of the campaign have previously called for remembrance to be decolonised. Is the army going woke? And we'll be revealing how pornography is rewiring our brains and why it affects us all. The authors of a brilliant new book will join us later, plus the shocking pressures forcing artists to censor themselves and the fight to stop it. A groundbreaking new survey from Freedom in the Arts is being unleashed, and one of the co-founders is here to tell us all about it. And of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering questions from our wonderful studio audience. A heroic member of the LNER staff remains in a life-threatening condition, says British Transport Police, following a mass stabbing on a Cambridgeshire train last night. The victim has been described as nothing short of heroic. 11 people were treated in hospital after the horrifying attack on board a train travelling from Doncaster to London King's Cross. Police said this evening that one person is being treated as the only suspect, and that there is nothing to suggest that the attack was terrorism. Passengers suffered from 14 minutes of terror, with no escape until the train made an emergency stop at Huntingdon Station. I am now joined by barrister Stephen Barrett. Welcome to the show. Hi. Round of applause. It's a bit weird getting a round of applause on the back of that.
It's a bit weird.
Look, when something like this happens, and certainly in a week like we've seen, of tragedy compounding upon tragedy, it feels like when you're watching the telly, when you're being on social media, that we as a population are being managed.
Yeah.
And it's not a nice feeling.
No, it's infantilising. It turns us into little children. And we as a country really do need to push back against this. I think there are signs of it, because this time I haven't seen anybody really come down on social media and falsely claim, that so-and-so started anything. I mean, I suppose there wasn't an outburst, so there was nothing to falsely accuse people of starting, so that may play a part in it. But with the Southport last year, things were very different, and the atmosphere felt very different, very febrile. As humans, we have to accept that we are just an ape, and we're not always a terribly rational ape. And I don't think our reaction to Southport last year was terribly irrational. I have to say, I don't think the government handled themselves very well at all, and I do blame the bollard for largely causing the problems with Southport, because he simply didn't engage in an emotional response. I suppose this time he saved us, because he hasn't even tried to pretend that he has emotions. So he hasn't actually gone to Huntingdon for 19 seconds and laid a plastic wreath like he did at Southport. But at Southport, he literally just stayed out of it. But I think we self-censor too much. I think we worry too much about contempt of court rules and contempt of court laws. When Rudy Kobala pleaded guilty, I felt able to speak completely out about him. And I talked to a fellow lawyer who was much more conservative and concerned than I was, saying, oh, well, they might accuse you of contempt of court because you'll be influencing the judge. And I just literally said to him, if you honestly think my social media can impact a High Court judge, then we have weak and pathetic High Court judges. Thankfully, along came Mr. Justice Goose, who proved me absolutely right. The idea of a tweet or a Facebook post by anybody impacting Mr. Justice Goose is clearly tosh. And in Oxford recently, at a trial of a migrant, there was a very forthright female judge. Forgive me, I forget her name, which is I do genuinely feel embarrassed about. But she was brilliant, because she just said, I don't care about what's on social media. I will run this trial. I will tell the jury what to do. The jury will do what I say. There will be no risk of derailing the trial. And we really need to be much more tough about this, much more robust. I mean, if Axel Rudy Kobana had not changed his plea and then had tried to argue that that somehow his trial had been prejudiced, when we caught him at the scene, that would just be monstrously pathetic.
So, just to explain to people who don't necessarily work in media or anything, is that there's a sensation where people are online, whether it's misinformation or real information, but it feels like sometimes you're getting information online that you're not getting from the media. Now, we have a duty, because of contempt of court, that to be very careful about what information goes out there. So I think that may partly be responsible, but you think that sometimes people err on the side of caution?
Yeah, I think we are too cautious on this, and I think the Prime Minister has used that caution against us. I don't. I have particularly low regard for this man, but I think he has indicated and scared non-lawyers in particular about potential contempt of court. I think it's something that we should see as decent people very unlikely to commit, very unlikely to do, unless you start calling. I mean, this gentleman's not named, which is great. So how can we possibly, contempt against him when we're not going to say that people are guilty because we believe in innocence until proven guilty? I mean, that's at the core of it. What matters, and I do believe in innocence until proven guilty, and I do want our country to keep that as a key foundational principle. I'm not terribly sure that the Prime Minister can say he clung to that principle, or the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, as she then was, when they tweeted out that the Southport tweeters were all guilty and that they'd all be rounded up. And they tweeted out that the Southport people involved in demonstrations and events were all guilty.
Well, the one thing they haven't posted about this week was Wayne Broadhurst, who's murdered on Monday. As far as I haven't seen it anyway.
No, again, maybe we are being saved because the Prime Minister isn't even bothering now to pretend that he has emotions. So he didn't even go to Uxbridge. He didn't even, mention this poor man who was murdered. Again, we don't know the name of the suspect, which is, I think, a really great saving grace. I know a lot of producers and a lot of media companies don't necessarily have lawyers on hand when they need them. So if we don't even know the name of the suspect, the chance of prejudicing a trial against them is really, really low. I mean, that's just very low. The government tried to run this argument that, they'll prejudice against all migrants. And it's like, well, I don't think so, because just because somebody's a migrant, unfortunately, there are so many migrant crimes right now that you can't just go, I'm the jury on the migrant who committed, an awful thing, because I'm afraid, terribly, that there are lots of juries who are going to have to listen to lots of cases involving lots of migrants who are doing awful things because we are importing dangerous men, because we are a stupid country. I mean, I just don't know any other thing that I can possibly say.
Well, talking about, this event that happened, I think there's a lot of fear out there. A lot of people, everyone takes the train. People can imagine themselves very easily in such circumstances. But there's obviously a huge disconnect between the people who rule us, who aren't necessarily going to be facing those same concerns.
I think that's a really key point, and I think this is something that we should absolutely bear in mind. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has professional armed security. The Prime Minister has professional armed security for reasons I simply don't understand, given that Boris used to ride around on a bike. The Mayor of London has, professional armed security and armoured cars. That means they live differently from us. And the Victorians, who had suffered the first political assassination, and it was in living memory of a Prime Minister. It's the only, you get asked it in pub quizzes, it's the only Prime Minister who's ever been assassinated. They remembered that, and they didn't want any of the security infrastructure, because they knew that once elites start living behind gated communities, once they start living distant from ordinary people, you're actually creating a time bomb. And to the Victorians' mind, that was the mistake of the French aristocrats. That's what the French did wrong. That's what caused the French Revolution, and they were damn well not going to have that here. So they didn't have glass in Parliament to protect them. They had an open public gallery. I mean, there were numerous attempts to assassinate Queen Victoria. Did they go mad on security for Queen Victoria? No. They knew that elites and ordinary people have to live amongst each other and not feel like they're special and disconnected, because otherwise they'll make the mistake, and ultimately the people outnumber the elite. And that's a simple truth. So personally, I'd get rid of the barriers on Downing Street. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's an absolutely grotesque fence now at the Houses of Parliament, which is ours. Belongs to us constitutionally. We have every damn public right to go in it, forgive my language, but we do. That should not be there. And all of these armed officers, bless them, who are protecting all of these individuals, probably need to go. And the Home Secretary probably needs to use public transport. So that the threat to us of using public transport is shared by our elite. And obviously, I don't want anything bad to happen to any of our politicians. You've got a studio audience, and I can see them, and I'm telling you, I don't want anything bad to happen to them either. But until we get this idea that we're all one people living as one country, they're not going to be in any way motivated to fix our problems.
Well, maybe we just start on a smaller scale, where Sadiq Khan goes out with a mobile phone.
Yeah.
In public.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck, Sadiq.
Then we can move on from there. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Please, a round of applause for the barrister, Stephen Barrett. Next on Free Speech Nation, me and my fellow comedians, we answer some crazy culture conundrums from our live studio audience. You don't want to miss it. There's some crazy ones there.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. My comedian guests this evening are Simon Evans and Steve N. Allen. Simon Evans, there he is. Hey, mate, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Sort of the bearded, baldy...
Yeah, a reunion.
Men.
Yeah.
It just shows diversity is available, isn't it?
We've got a
all different
diversity
colours
of
beards.
poppies, at least 3 different versions of the poppy.
Poppies, I've got my dyed beard, you're halfway there, it's all very good. Right, well, we're going to get some questions from our audience, and our first question's from Mike.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Mike.
Is it now OK to be a climate change sceptic?
Yeah, is it now OK to be a climate change sceptic? So this week, billionaire and previous climate change campaigner Bill Gates seems to have changed his mind about one of the biggest sacred cows of our time. Ahead of the COP30 environmental meeting in Brazil, Gates has published an essay that rejects the doomsday view of climate change. Gates said, although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. This is a big deal. This is a big turnaround. He's not like denying climate change, but it's definitely a step away from we're all dead.
He's almost saying, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a scientist, I'm a skeptic of most things, but skeptic of climate change. And also the effect, well, not so much the effect on the countries, but how we think we can do anything about it. I'm not sure we can do a huge amount about it.
Well, I think a lot's been done in terms of just even technological developments.
Yes, but climate's been changing for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and man wasn't involved with most of that.
Well, bring it back to the show element. I mean, you're a scientist, so to voice not scepticism, but just to sort of let's look at the data, let's see what the possibilities are. I'm imagining that just even up until very, very recently, that would lead to some serious challenges from colleagues, like that you would be some sort of crank or something.
It did, but I mean, there's some recent data on the out of the North Pacific. There's been a massive increase in relative terms of the temperature in the last 12 months of 1 degree of the water temperature. That's now been found to be because of the reduction of pollution of the ships in the Pacific.
So there is. Well, look, let's go to it.
The sun's getting through to the water more easily than it did before.
I see what you're saying.
It's warming the water.
Well, look, Steve, you know, you probably understand what he's talking about. What do you think about this? I mean, Bill Gates, he's done many accomplishments out there in terms of his charity work, in terms of AIDS and malaria and whatnot. But this is a big shift.
It's interesting, yeah. I mean, look, if he wanted to do something about it, he could just use the little chips he's now got in all of us and make us stop using carbon. So he could have done something, because apparently we've all got him now. But no, he's not just a tech guy. He's a tech guy who thinks that technology will be the solution. And here's what we've already done today. We've fallen into the trap. He's talking about how much you don't want to ruin an economy to try and have some sort of impact on climate change. And already we're talking about, is climate change real? That's not even the area he's trying to talk about. When we were all growing up doing balanced science GCSE, we got the idea that renewable energy was good because it'd be cheap. And that doesn't seem to be the case so far. If we focus on making things cheaper, it doesn't matter whether it saves the planet or not, it would be cheaper, so it'd be a good reason to do it. And he's kind of saying that, let's separate out, and we mix them in our heads. Climate change is a topic and net zero is a topic. They almost should be not linked, because you can separate them out. And one of them is really bad, and it seems to be heading in the wrong direction. The other one, you've got Bill Gates, Elon Musk, people who aren't hardly seen as like left-wing cranks, who are thinking like, they're real, it's an effect, but we can fix it with technology. Let's lean into that.
Yeah, well, what do you think about this, Simon? Are you sort of... He's coming around, and do you think that's going to have an impact on other people in the way that we can really just have an adult discussion about all of this now?
I suppose he does give permission to other people to express scepticism. I mean, given that this is free speech nation and that's the aspect of it we should be focusing on, I don't think it should ever be regarded as verboten or taboo to express sceptical or dissident views on it. I'm not credentialed enough to give my overview on it, but it does seem to me that the likeliest way that if we do accept that climate change is something we need to tackle, the best way to do that is to go full tilt ahead towards industrial production of units that can draw energy from the sun and wind and so on, such as they're doing in China by burning billions of tons of coal every year in order to produce them. And that's not just my opinion, that's the opinion of Noah Smith in his No Opinion economic blog, which is one of the most highly subscribed Substacks in the world of economics. I personally regard Bill Gates with a good deal of scepticism, almost as much as I do anthropogenic climate change. He seems to think that his views are worth hearing on everything from vaccines to, demographic change in Africa. I think of him as a software salesman that got lucky, and I would rather, try and sort of silo my opinion genesis to some extent.
So all you want him is just to tell you how to turn the computer on and off?
Anyone who looks that lousy and he looks like Noel Edmonds in a Christmas sweater most of the time. I just thought, oh, mate, I'm not buying it, sorry.
All right, well, look, our next question is from Chris.
Hi, Josh. Is Doctor Who to work for Disney?
Is Doctor Who to work for Disney? Disney has pulled out of its Doctor Who partnership with the BBC after just 2 series, following what critics called the show's woke rebrand. The US streaming giant has confirmed it will not be involved in the next series of the sci-fi favourite, following reports of a lacklustre viewing figures. Now, obviously, let's go to our resident...
Yeah, you did science and then nerdery. I'm right here for it.
Did you watch...
Of course I did. I'm a Whovian non-stop. Yeah, of course I watched this woke rebrand with Ncuti Gatwa. I watched the previous woke rebrand with Jodie Whittaker. I watched the Matt Smith one when the Daily Mail hated it because he was young and the Daleks were primary colours. No one's liked it for a long while, but I think this story, everyone thinks it's all about some, too woke for Disney. It just didn't get the viewers. It's not watched enough for Disney, not good enough for Disney, really.
Well, sure, but then the question becomes, Simon, whether that is because of people are sick of the kind of programming and putting messaging into what should just be a kind of sci-fi series. I mean, look, you've lost your virginity. Have you seen Doctor Who?
Yeah, I remember seeing it before and after that. You know, I think it was about halfway through Jodie Whittaker. I mean, I'm not a Whovian. I used to watch it, you know, at the appropriate age, but not in the rebrand. But I did read a book recently because one of my favourite authors, non-fiction authors, a guy called John Higgs, who's also Brighton-based, and I think of his might be my shadow self because he writes lots of books about things I'm interested in, but from the alternative, the kind of left-wing, left-leaning point of view. He wrote a whole book about the history of Doctor Who, and it was quite interesting seeing how many chops and changes and fashion shifts and so on, and potential hurdles it's overcome in the past, and the extent to which it's absolutely fallen on its arse, frankly, with the, I kind of remember, as you said it confidently, Shooter Gatway, as just being, you know, a force-feeding, like cattle trough too far. I feel it is an affront. It's absurd. And now he's regenerated into Billie Piper, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Look, the
or is
whole
she,
thing...
or now William Piper. I don't think she's ever more grown up. But, yeah, I am not at all surprised. You're right. It went from 5.2 million with Jodie Whittaker, which was, you know, still a drop from its heights, but in the multi-streaming world, not too bad, to less than 4 million with the latest incarnation, and that's why Disney is red in tooth and claw.
But also, it feels like they really upped themselves in terms of pushing ideology. You had aliens that were non-binary, all of that kind of stuff. Our next question is from Melvin.
Good evening. Should a man be suspended for not being extreme enough?
So it sounds like you said, should a man be... This is UK-based Imam Umayya Mullah, was suspended from a mosque in Nottingham after stating he had no issue with Israel and recognised Israelis' history in the Middle East while appearing in an interview in Jerusalem with Tommy Robinson last week. Let's take a look.
I have no issue. As long as people are living in peace, if they have their side, they have their country, and the Palestinians have their own kind of safe spot where they can live freely without under any oppression or any injustice, then I think this is the solution for peace in the Middle East.
So, Melvin, he comes across to me as someone who's very reasonable and considered. I'm talking about Tommy Robinson. So, but did you see this interview?
I saw it, yes.
Yeah, I thought it was a good interview. This Imam, he was knowledgeable, and he seemed relatively fair. I didn't agree with everything, but I was like, yeah, this was moderation. This is encouraging.
Yes, but he got suspended by the people that didn't want to hear the truth. That's the reason.
Well, this is it. So this is it. So he went back home. This interview came out, and then his mosque basically said that he had these extreme views.
Yep.
So if thinking that that there should be a two-state solution means that and recognising the history of Jews in the land of Israel is extreme and calling for peace, then what does that say about the mosque?
It really does tell you something, isn't it? The thing that you think you should have to apologise for is more informative than anything else here, I suppose. I mean, the fact that we've managed to find someone who's still talking about a two-state solution. Wow! So, well, that topic's been off the agenda for a little while. So it's I'd say worrying, but then it's not that shocking, is it? Do you not think this was...
Well, I don't think it's shocking, but I think it should be. You see, Simon, you've seen these clips coming from mosques of imams just literally broadcasting hate out into the world, and the Charity Commission not taking any action on it. Here you have an imam who's speaking reasonably, who's saying words that will hopefully get us to a world of peace, goes home and they say, no, sorry, that's not for us.
Yeah, I don't know what the internal politics are of the structure of a network of mosques in this country, let alone worldwide, and to what extent they're governed from some sort of top-down indication of how these things should be handled. It does seem like they're looking for a united front, but it's fairly extraordinary to see one being interviewed by Tommy Robinson in itself. I suppose that might be the bigger story as well. I don't know what maybe is going on under the surface with that one. As you say, the prima facie effect is to say, well, they're completely unreasonable and any sort of deviation from river to the sea is unacceptable. But I'm afraid I'm going to plead the fifth on this to some extent because I just don't understand the structure of mosque.
Well, Simon, we've got a present for you. We're going to be sending you for a week to stay in the mosque, and you are going to reveal all. Right, our final question.
A fatwa-finding mission.
Final question is from David.
Are men better at being women than actual women?
Yeah, are men better at being women than women? J.K. Rowling has taken aim at Glamour UK magazine's latest issue, which names 9 males with trans identities among its Women of the Year. The Harry Potter author and women's rights activist wrote on X, "I grew up in an era when mainstream women's magazines told girls they needed to be thinner and prettier. Now mainstream women's magazines tell girls that men are better women than they are." So this came out, David, and people seemed pretty upset about it. I think fairly so. It's amazing to see this continue. This kind of all started years ago when you had men winning female business awards, and now it's moved into magazines.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite something. I was a bit shocked to see it. I mean, obviously, I think men don't make better women than actual women because they're not women. It's not that complicated.
Well, this is it. And they're wearing this T-shirt, Protect the Dolls, which is a kind of, even that in and of itself is offensive. Like, femaleness is a kind of plastic dullness, a docile, immovable quality. And it sort of, I believe, also has a sort of pornography background to it as well.
Don't pretend you don't know exactly that's where it comes from.
Did you also see this footage of someone going up to a trans woman going up to someone wearing a Native American dress in America? Actually, let's just quickly show it because it's brilliant.
She's dressed as a Native American.
Are you trans? Is that a costume or is that how you are? Huh?
Do I look trans?
So that's someone in woman face going up and berating a woman for... He doesn't know, by the way, if she has any Native American background or not, or anything.
He's being a Karen. So I think what he's doing is really going into the role by demanding to see the manager about this. Yeah. To the wider point, though, it's nice to be recognised that we men can do something well. I don't think it's being women, but it's just nice to hear any kind of compliment, really, isn't it, sometimes? But I would say, women, if I can address you all, don't be offended by it, because it's just the Glamour Women of the Year thing is not about women or about men. It's about trying to get people aware that Glamour magazine is still going. There's no reason to do these things other than just to get publicity, isn't it? It's like a couple of years ago, the BBC did the Women of the Year and it included one of the pandas in the zoo. They're just messing with you. You're being trolled. Don't get upset.
Well, look, I'm not going to go to Simon on this because we've got to go to break, but also Simon, he stopped reading Glamour about 2 years ago.
Shortly after using my virginity.
Next on Free Speech Nation, a documentary on the rise of censorship in Britain claims it is being censored by X, applying age verification. Meanwhile, Elon Musk launches Grokpedia, a fix to what he calls Wokepedia. That's coming up after the break.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After recent heavy rain across parts of Portugal and Spain, they are generally seeing a drier interlude at the moment, and Iberia is looking dry over the next couple of days, although further rain is expected here as we head later on into the week. So reversal of fortunes for parts of Italy, the Balkans and Greece, though. They currently have the rain at the moment, some thunderstorms around as well, but this band of rain will continue its way eastwards, and so later on in the week it will return to drier and sunnier conditions for these countries.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. As we transition into the new working week, it is set to turn wetter and windier overall. Already this evening we are starting to see rain move in from the west, and this will spread eastwards across many areas overnight. It will turn heavy and persistent in places, particularly over some higher ground sites like northwestern England and parts of northwest Wales. Blustery night to come as well. But those winds are filtering in some very mild air, and so by the time we reach Monday morning, many of us will see double-digit figures when we're walking out the door. Despite the mild start to the day, though, do be prepared for a lot of cloud on the scene. It's going to be fairly damp and dreary for many. Further outbreaks of rain possible as you are heading to work. Some of those could be on the heavy side as well. The winds will be blustery right throughout the day. We could see gales in exposed coastal and mountain areas. Generally, if you are a little bit further towards the east, there is the greater chance, particularly in the afternoon, that we start to see the cloud breaking up a touch more. And maybe for parts of southeastern England, northeastern Scotland as well, we might start to see some sunshine emerging through. And generally, eastern areas will stay that little bit drier, with the rain more persistent out towards the west. But it is going to be a mild day right throughout, even despite the cloudy scenes, and temperatures will be peaking around 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. Our low pressure system is going to stay with us into Tuesday. A lot of isobars on the chart here indicating it's going to remain fairly unsettled. The occluded front generally draped northeast to southwest, and that's where we're going to see the bulk of the rain moving through on Tuesday. Potential for some quite heavy rain to move across southwest England into southern Wales at points as well. There's still some uncertainty in regards to exactly where that will be positioned, but certainly southeastern England, again northern Scotland, perhaps seeing some brighter spells moving through. But the unsettled and slightly mild theme is looking to continue right throughout next week. Bye-bye.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Elon Musk's company, xAI, has launched its own version of Wikipedia, Grokopedia. Musk claims that Grokopedia is an unbiased alternative to Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, which he accuses of left-leaning bias. Meanwhile, Spike's new documentary, Think Before You Post, about the rise of censorship in Britain, has been censored. It has been slapped with age verification on X due to the Online Safety Act. The irony. I'm now joined by the editor of Spiked Online to talk about both of these issues, Tom Slater. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Let's talk about the documentary first. Congratulations, by the way. It's a bit more longer form. Watching it all at once, it's kind of like watching a very condensed episode of Free Speech Nation. You've got a lot of familiar faces on there, but you also see like how it's just one case after the other, and how mad this country has been for the last few years.
No, absolutely. So that was the aim with it, was to take this issue that we're all very familiar with talking about and trying to put the human face to it. We see the headlines, we see the statistics about the number of people who are being arrested in this country for social media posts, but we really wanted to talk to the people who've gone through it, who have had that knock at the door. We've got 3 kind of key case studies in the film. The Borehamwood parents who were visited by 6 police officers and investigated for complaining about their child's school too vigorously in a WhatsApp group and online. Alison Pearson, the Daily Telegraph columnist, who was investigated supposedly for inciting racial hatred for a year-old mistaken tweet, primarily about the hate marches.
That she deleted.
That she deleted, exactly. And Jamie Michael, who was a former Royal Marine living in Wales, who made a video after Southport, kind of inveighing against illegal migration, but explicitly denouncing violence. He was investigated, arrested, prosecuted, and actually went to trial. He was on remand for 17 days and then acquitted by a jury of his peers in 17 minutes. Such was the injustice of that particular case. So we just wanted to talk to these people, get their side of the story, and get that sense that even when it doesn't result in you ending up in court, how the process is the punishment and how sinister it is that these stories are so common in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm familiar much more with the first 2 cases, and I knew about the last one, but I didn't know about his life, about how reasonable what he posted out there was. It was just something that, it was his opinion on stuff, and as you say, very explicitly not about violence or attacking anybody. Yet he was, I believe it was a local Labour politician who'd sort of recommended him to the police, and as you say, the punishment, this is a normal guy, and thank God he went to Free Speech union to help him.
No, I think his case is really instructive because, of course, you should stick up for people's free speech regardless of their background and regardless of what they say. But at the same time, this is a man who served his country. He served in Iraq. He, in his own words, was willing to put his life down the line for this country. And then the British state treats him so incredibly poorly. The fact that he even got to trial was actually just out of his own bloody mind in this. He was like, I haven't done anything wrong, therefore I'm not going to plead guilty, as many people did who were arrested for social media posts after Southport. And again, the fact that he was held on remand for 17 days, that's very unusual even for serious violent offences, let alone someone who just made a video. And I think that is a really good example of how just people are being chewed up and spat out by the system. And also, as you say, how it's kind of become whether or not you're just willing out of sheer stubbornness to plead not guilty to fight this case, or whether or not you're someone like Alison Pearson, who has the Daily Telegraph behind you, who knows Toby Young very well, who can be very well advised. That can be the difference between whether you lose your liberty or not, and surely that can't continue to be the case.
And then you released the documentary, part of it you put links on X, and then they were limited. The viewings were limited. There was something ironic going on. Has that changed? Is that
We're still trying to get it lifted, but as it currently is, yes, our documentary about social media censorship is being censored on social media. But it's one of those things where I would prefer that it'd reach more people, but I guess it has proved our point to a certain extent. As you say, this is about age verification, the things that the X and all the other big social media platforms have had to bring in as a consequence of the Online Safety Act. I should stress there's nothing age inappropriate in it. If you're worried we've snuck in some quite...
Maybe if you hadn't hosted the documentary topless.
Exactly, that was a bit of an odd creative choice on reflection. We were so careful that we even bleeped Alison Pearson, using a very well-earned F-bomb when referring to her own story. So careful were we, but nevertheless it's been slapped with those warnings. But you can find it on X if you logged in or whatever, and it's also on YouTube and in all the usual places. So you can still watch it, even though it's been muzzled to a certain degree, unfortunately.
OK, well, the other thing we want to talk about is the creation of Grokpedia, which is the alternative to Wikipedia, because we've seen how captured what started out as a very useful tool I think there's 37 administrators now who are anonymous, who essentially control all of Wikipedia's content. Do you think Grokpedia is the game changer that's going to challenge that?
Well, I think it's definitely, if nothing else, it's shown up Wikipedia, hasn't it? Which anyone who works for an organisation that has a Wikipedia page, or as an individual who has a Wikipedia page, will know that it's basically just a kind of collection of, slander from people who've got the biggest axe to grind against you a lot of the time. So the fact that this AI tool is posing a challenge to that, I think, is tremendously positive. It shows up just how biased Wikipedia has become. And it's not just us saying this. I mean, Larry Sanger, one of the founders of Wikipedia, just a few weeks ago, wrote a very long piece talking about how it had been captured by ideologues, and that if it was going to survive and its reputation was going to continue, it needed to address that. There's obviously problems with getting an AI to do this kind of thing. They do hallucinate, they do make things up. There's also been some not unfounded claims that maybe it's got its own biases, not least Elon Musk's page is very long. It stresses the fact that he lost 20 pounds recently and it wasn't because of Monjaro.
Talks about what a great lover he is.
He might as well, essentially. So there are still questions to be asked about when you've got, billionaires controlling, or at least in ownership of these tools, that whether or not they can have their own biases, shall we say. But the story here is the fact that Wikipedia, the thing that, certainly up until recently, search engines would send you to if you were trying to find out about a certain topic, is just peddling misinformation on so many different fronts. So surely a challenge to that is going to be welcome.
This is it. I mean, I don't think people really appreciate how captured Wikipedia is. Also, it's how ubiquitous its uses. Even AI will now go...
Even Grokpedia.
Even Grokpedia will go... AI will go to Grokpedia. And when I had some issues recently, someone sabotaged my page, wrote that I was like a far-right commentator. Then The Independent went on and then repeated that. Then I got it changed back, because I voted Labour in the last election, which was a mistake. But anyway, but the point is I got it changed back. But then, because it was in The Independent that way, then that gets to be used as a source. And this is how it works. This is how truth gets changed. It's incredibly frustrating. Luckily, though, my Grokpedia page says I've got lots of hair. So that's great.
You encourage everyone to read it. But that is the big problem, is what happens when the institutions that we previously trusted to tell the truth, or at least present the facts, are corrupted. I mean, Wikipedia has always been criticised for getting things wrong as well as being biased. But when you've even got newspapers and journalists who are so lazy that they're just regurgitating misinformation on Wikipedia, of course people are going to cast around for alternatives. So hopefully we'll start to see that. Whether or not it's AI, it's not entirely clear to me that AI in its current form or even in a more sophisticated form is really up for the job of deciding what is truth and what is fiction entirely. But still, a challenge to this is probably good. All
right, we'll find out. Well, thank you very much. The editor of Spiked Online, and also according to Wikipedia, he is 4'9". Tom Slater. Sir Mark Riley, star of World War II film Dunkirk, has backed the White Poppy movement. The organisers of the campaign have previously called for Remembrance Day to be decolonised. Is the army going woke? See you in 2 minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Sir Mark Rylance, who starred in Christopher Nolan's Second World War film Dunkirk, has joined in backing the controversial White Poppy movement. Peace Pledge Union has previously come under fire for claiming that remembrance should be decolonized and demanding that so-called nationalist narratives that whitewash and glorify the British Empire are removed. Meanwhile, the British Army is under fire for having associations with private members' clubs, which apparently undermines the Army's intended status as a modern, inclusive, forward-thinking organisation. Joining me to discuss both of these is Elliot Wilson, the contributing editor of Defence on the Brink. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Let's talk, first of all, about this poppy. It's something I hadn't really been familiar with. Setting it up in some way as in opposition to the red poppy. And I didn't realise how long this white poppy had been around. I think initially it was just set up to commemorate all deaths within war. But I think we can all acknowledge that deaths in war is bad.
Yes, I think most people acknowledge that war is bad, and I think most soldiers acknowledge that as well. I mean, the white poppy thing comes up from time to time, and, you know, we all know how much we love actors talking about politics and morality and things like that. Sir Mark Rylance is a brilliant actor. He's a slightly eccentric man. But I think the real problem, as you say, is this sense of saying you can either do one or the other. I mean, I think one of the extraordinary things about Remembrance Day is its solemnity and its sense of being for the dead of all wars. And it's not just for a particular group, it's not just for a particular rank. If you look at the cenotaph, there are no names on it. It just says the glorious dead. And that's one of the tremendous things about the Poppy Appeal, is that it is for everyone to remember that we have been through terrible wars. We've lost huge numbers of people, both soldiers and civilians, and we don't want to do that again. But unfortunately, not everyone in the world agrees with us. So, you know, war exists. It's a shocking headline, but there it is.
But we've seen wars around the world, and then we've seen people, because you could argue that it's because everything's visualised because of social media and clips, but there seems to be this sort of lack of understanding that war does exist around the world, and that we are desensitised to that.
And I think also, I mean, thank God we've, you know, the casualty rates, certainly in the wars that Britain has fought, have dropped dramatically from the Second World War down to sort of Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think we've become much more sensitive to each individual death, which is obviously a tragedy. But, you know, the first day of the Battle of the Somme in 1916, 20,000 people were killed in the first, you know, few hours. That's unimaginable now, thank God, but it happened, and it happened for a reason. And it's good that we commemorate that so we don't have to do it again.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Army. I read your article this week in The Spectator. I had no idea that the Army was now the lowest number of since 1770s?
Since the 1770s, yeah.
Wow. And now, and there's a crisis in terms of trying to get new people to join, but at the same time, you've got members of the Army saying you can't be part of various clubs.
I think the real problem with this is you can have an argument about whether clubs should be able to, you know, discriminate against people on various bases. I think it's extraordinary that even the Equality Act 2010, which most of us hate because it's a terrible piece of legislation, even the Equality Act sets aside gender-only clubs, so you can have a men-only club. That's allowed under the law, but the Army is now saying you shouldn't even associate with them. I mean, that's a separate issue. I think, you know, what the Deputy Chief of the General Staff was saying is this is about image. Well, it is about image. And if you're thinking, what is the modern British Army like? Am I going to want to join this force and make a career there? And is it something that will, you know, be part of our national defence, our national security? Does this kind of letter say that? I don't think it does. I think it looks like top brass who have no idea about the incredible challenges that the armed forces are facing, which are huge, you know, money, equipment, real threats on our doorstep, and we're wondering about, oh, maybe we shouldn't go to a particular club because they've got a room set aside for men.
Yeah, well, I don't know much about these clubs, but I'm just imagining that they're just for people to get drunk. Essentially.
Well, the strange thing is, there are very few men-only clubs now in the kind of traditional, you know, London gentlemen's club sense anyway. All the ones which are set up for members of the forces, like the Army, Navy, Naval and Military, they're all available to men and women. But, I mean, clubs do discriminate. That's how clubs work. There are people who can join, there are people who can't. Otherwise, it's not a club. You know, the Cavalry and Guards Club on Piccadilly, you can join if you've been in the Cavalry or the Guards. And if you haven't, you can't.
Whether you're a man or a woman.
Absolutely, yeah. So this idea that, you know, it's some terrible blow that we might associate with one of the few remaining clubs in London, if that's what he's talking about. I mean, there were no examples, there was no sort of sense of exactly what association with them or endorsement of them meant.
But he was basically saying that if you don't change their rules, you shouldn't be associated with these clubs at all.
Yeah.
I mean, is this what our army should be focusing on, of course?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the MOD say that there's no particular reason this has come out now. I mean, I think we've all had conversations with partners where you say, why do you ask that? And they say, no reason. There's always a reason. So what it is, I don't know, whether it's trying to move the agenda on from some of the real problems about bullying and harassment in the armed forces. It may be that. But it just looks like, you know, senior army officers who are absolutely detached from the massive problems that we need to fix with the armed forces, most of which will cost money. This one doesn't, of course, which may be an attraction to politicians and generals and civil servants. But, you know, this is not, I wouldn't have thought, a massive issue for the Army.
Well, that's it. Well, this is a pattern that I guess we've seen repeated across all of our institutions. It's just a shame, of course, that they came for the Army.
Well, I think the army will survive because it always has done, but it just feels like it's a distraction to the real challenge of, actual national security when we're at a greater threat than we've ever been.
Yeah, well, anyway, thank you very much for joining me, the contributing editor of Defence on the Brink, Elliot Wilson. That's the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away because there's lots more to come between now and 9 o'clock, including why I will be going to the Aston Villa match on Thursday. See you in 2 minutes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. As we transition into the new working week, it is set to turn wetter and windier overall. Already this evening we are starting to see rain move in from the west, and this will spread eastwards across many areas overnight. It will turn heavy and persistent in places, particularly over some higher ground sites like northwestern England and parts of northwest Wales. Blustery night to come as well. But those winds are filtering in some very mild air, and so by the time we reach Monday morning, many of us will see double-digit figures when we're walking out the door. Despite the mild start to the day, though, do be prepared for a lot of cloud on the scene. It's going to be fairly damp and dreary for many. Further outbreaks of rain possible as you are heading to work. Some of those could be on the heavy side as well. The winds will be blustery right throughout the day. We could see gales in exposed coastal and mountain areas. Generally, if you are a little bit further towards the east, there is the greater chance, particularly into the afternoon, that we start to see the cloud breaking up a touch more. And maybe for parts of southeastern England, northeastern Scotland as well, we might start to see some sunshine merging through. And generally, eastern areas will stay that little bit drier, with the rain more persistent out towards the west. But it is going to be a mild day right throughout, even despite the cloudy scenes, and temperatures will be peaking around 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. Our low pressure system is going to stay with us into Tuesday. A lot of isobars on the chart here indicating it's going to remain fairly unsettled. The occluded front generally draped northeast to southwest, and that's where we're going to see the bulk of the rain moving through on Tuesday. Potential for some quite heavy rain to move across southwest England into southern Wales at points as well. There's still some uncertainty in regards to exactly where that will be positioned, but certainly southeastern England, again northern Scotland, perhaps seeing some brighter spells moving through. But the unsettled and slightly mild theme is looking to continue right throughout next week. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag, and we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
There's plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, but let's get a news update first from Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Josh. 8 o'clock here in the GB Newsroom. Our headlines. Police have confirmed just one person is now being held on suspicion of attempted murder following yesterday's mass stabbing on a train in Cambridgeshire. They say the 32-year-old British national boarded the Doncaster to London King's Cross service at Peterborough. The second suspect, arrested, a 35-year-old man, has now been released. A knife has been recovered at the scene and forensics teams are continuing to move through the carriages, searching for evidence. Authorities say the heroic rail staff member who tried to stop the attack remains in a life-threatening condition. 5 other people have been discharged from hospital. Detectives are looking into the background of the suspect in custody and the events that led up to the attack. British Transport Police Superintendent John Lovelace says it's not being treated as terror-related.
Counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident. This is a British Transport Police investigation, and we continue to work to establish at pace the full circumstances and the motivations that have led to this incident.
The Defence Secretary says Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is to be stripped of his remaining honorary title. John Healey says the government's working to remove Andrew's rank of Vice Admiral in the Royal Navy at the King's request. He was given the honour in 2015 and retained it even after giving up his other military positions in 2022. Andrew was stripped of his royal title as a prince last week over his relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The first charter flight bringing British citizens back from Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa landed at Gatwick Airport earlier. Around 8,000 British nationals are understood to have been on the island when the Category 5 storm made landfall on Tuesday. At least 50 people across the Caribbean have lost their lives. Nearly 500,000 people remain without power. The UK has sent £7.5 million worth of humanitarian aid to the region, including shelter kits and solar-powered lanterns. French prosecutors say the thieves who carried out the raid at the Louvre Museum in Paris last month are most likely petty criminals rather than professional gangsters. They say 2 of the 3 suspects in custody were convicted in the same theft case in Paris a decade ago and have dozens of previous convictions between them. Jewellery worth an estimated £76 million was taken in a raid on the 16th of October. Apart from a crown dropped at the scene, none of it has been recovered. Donald Trump has threatened Nigeria with military action over the killing of thousands of Christians there. In a post on social media, the US president claimed that Islamists are committing mass slaughter and Christianity is facing what he called an existential threat. And Mr. Trump quoted figures suggesting more than 3,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria, although he didn't state any source or time frame or offer any evidence. The Nigerian government has rejected the claims. And those are your headlines. I'll have more for you coming up at 9 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. I've been called a lot of disparaging names in my life, some even justified, but I've never been called a football thug. Table tennis is more my game, but even the Barnet Table Tennis Club firm are too rambunctious for me. What I'm trying to say is I'm a wimp, and I'm not a football fan. But this Thursday, I'm going to travel to Villa Pavilion in Birmingham, where Aston Villa are playing Maccabi Tel Aviv. And the reason I'm going has nothing to do with football at all. I'm going because I believe this country is on a precipice, and not going will bring us a step closer to toppling over the edge. All of this has been a long time coming. Arguably, it goes back to 1989 when a fatwa was issued against Salman Rushdie, when the cowardice of cultural commentators, academia and institutions at the time to properly face down the threat of Islamist violence led to a creeping emboldening of a mob whose values do not match the UK when it comes to tolerance and plurality. We saw those same failings when the life of a religious studies teacher at Batley Grammar School was threatened because he showed a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad in a lesson about free speech. We saw it in how the police failed to ever arrest anybody for those threats. We saw it in how, over 4 years later, the man and his family are still in hiding for his life. We saw it when an autistic 14-year-old schoolboy scuffed a Quran. And again, rather than arrest those who made death threats, the police wheeled out a penitent mother to the local Muslim community to plead for her son's safety. And now we see it with a collusion between West Midlands Police, Aston Villa's management, and the safety advisory group overseen by Birmingham City Council. We see it in their disgraceful de facto establishment of a no-go zone for Jews. When a few weeks ago it was announced that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were banned in advance because of concerns for public safety, the first time ever for a foreign club, anti-Semites immediately tried to pass off the decision as due to the supposedly unique threat of violence from Israeli fans. And I'm sure Maccabi Tel Aviv does indeed have some violent, stupid fans, although nothing in the league of the Barnet Table Tennis Club. But the reality is, all football clubs have these people, and the police in this country are very well trained in prevention measures. The Jew haters pointed at what happened last year when Maccabi Tel Aviv played Ajax in Amsterdam. Even a report written by a former Hezbollah fighter, which the West Midlands Police unbelievably included in their assessment, used this as an excuse. But surprisingly, what the report failed to mention is that what happened was actually a pogrom that was pre-planned and coordinated by local Arabs to go on a, quote, Jew hunt. Not an Israeli hunt or a Maccabi Tel Aviv supporter hunt, but a Jew hunt. Nothing to do with football, just like football has nothing to do with this Thursday's decision. What this is all really about is a threat of violence from Muslim extremists to Jews. This is the public safety that authorities are concerned about. The Maccabi Tel Aviv management knows this, which is why, in the end, they've declined all their allotted tickets, because they don't want to endanger their fans. That's, of course, their right. They've got to do what they think is safe for them. But they aren't the ones who live here. We are. Jews, Christians, any religion, no religion, any ethnicity, everyone British has a decision to make. Do we want to live in the kind of country, will we allow this to be the kind of country that bows to bullies, to Muslim extremists, to sectarianism? Because as we've seen for the last 3 decades, if you don't stand up to bullies, you only encourage them. After the Israeli fans said they weren't coming, look how quickly extremists pivoted to campaigning for all Israeli teams to be banned. Surprise, it turns out they weren't actually concerned about football violence. They just wanted to ban Jews. And if it's not about banning Jews, then why have Aston Villa put stricter bans than usual on who can purchase tickets? And why have they not got back to the proposal from the Board of Deputies of British Jews for 500 tickets allocated for British Jewish fans, where they'd even provide coaches to and from the game? The authorities simply don't want any Jews to be there. The authorities don't want to antagonise the sectarian mob. Just as mass Islamists gathered in Tower Hamlets last week, there are Muslims organising a strength of force, or a force of strength this Thursday, against genocidal, barbarian fans. They mean Jews. They mean me. And I'm not going to let bullies tell me where I can go in my own country, my own home. And I'm not going to let the West Midlands Police off the hook and be able to turn a blind eye so they can let racist mobs rule our streets. I am a British Jew. And on Thursday, as is my right, I am going to Birmingham to watch a football match. I may not be a fan of the beautiful game, but I am a fan of this beautiful country. And if anyone wants to help keep it that way, to ensure this country remains a Western liberal democracy, you are welcome to join me. I'm now joined by Mark Birkbeck and Jonathan Sacerdoti. Hello, welcome to the show, guys. Hi. Sorry that they used up all their applause on me. So, Mark, you are planning on going as well. Jonathan, I actually haven't spoken to you about this. You're Jewish. You're not a fan of football like me. Has that inspired you? We're going to go together, just me and you?
I think I'm washing my hair, but I hope you have a good time.
I wish I could get away with that excuse. So, Mark, do you agree with what I was saying now? I don't like being told you can't go here. And, like I say, I'm not a football fan, but I feel like I have to go.
I agree with a lot of what you said in your monologue there. I think you're quite right that this is, as you called it, a precipice. This is a really important moment. It's hard not to think of something like Kristallnacht. Now, I don't want to be melodramatic. Kristallnacht, we're not in that moment of violence, in the same kind of violence. But
Although we have seen 2 Jews being murdered.
We have indeed. But Kristallnacht was an important moment because it was a test. It was a test in which the Nazis propagated violence against people to see what they could get away with. And it is interesting, I think we are on a precipice, as you say, because the parallel here is, are we going to allow this to be the new line that's drawn? Are we going to allow Islamists, as you described them, to set the new agenda and to basically say any time they shout, appeasement is the order of the day? So I do agree with you on that score. However, where I would disagree is I think we should call out the people involved. I don't think we should just simply say Islamists and Muslims and things like that, because there's a couple of players and actors and people involved here that should be really called out. Ayub Khan, the MP, and Jeremy Corbyn, they had a petition even before the game was, the tickets were withdrawn. They had a petition saying that they didn't want Israel to be, they don't want Israel to be part of UEFA. They want there to be boycotts and exclusions and brought down on Israel. So we should call out these people who are really driving this. And I think there's probably a lot of moderate Muslims, a lot of Villa fans, a lot of Birmingham residents and a lot of British citizens who don't like the image that's being portrayed here by those extremists.
Well, then you would think that they would, of course, deny those claims, but you would think then that, and certainly after seeing 2 Jews being murdered, that perhaps this was an opportunity for local residents in Birmingham, Muslim or not, to say, you know what, come and watch this game. Let's join together in peace and harmony. I haven't seen that.
So a lot of times we've talked about subjects like this and we've always said the mainstream British people, the silent majority, they don't feel this way. But I think perhaps what's most worrying about this story is exactly what you've just highlighted. Where is the mainstream who have insisted they're going to turn up? Where is the Cable Street moment where ordinary, regular Brits are actually going to come out in their hundreds or thousands and say, actually, this is nonsense, because it obviously is. You outlined perfectly there in the monologue how this doesn't make sense, even within its own ridiculous, warped logic. And I would say that for Jewish people, this is actually an opportunity, because it's given us the opportunity, and for non-Jewish people, non-Jewish Brits, to see really where things are at the moment in this country in 2025. And they're not in a pretty place. They're in a place where Israeli fans were banned from this football match, where effectively Jews have been told not to go to this football match with any of the arrangements being made, where the MP in question, I believe on October the 7th or shortly afterwards, put out messages saying that he didn't think there was evidence for any of the atrocities or some of the atrocities that have taken place. No surprise then that he should be doing this now about an Israeli football team, where we've seen people like Jeremy Corbyn once again crawling out of the woodwork. Doesn't matter that he was kicked out as leader of the Labour Party for leading it through this disastrous era of anti-Semitism. The Equalities and Human Rights Commission literally condemned the party under his leadership for having been institutionally anti-Semitic. Nothing's changed.
Sorry, they're not. Normally I say they're not here to defend themselves, but actually we've got Jeremy Corbyn right here. No, he's not at all.
I mean, honestly though, the truth of it is that we all know exactly what's going on, and we see that nobody is confronting it. So good luck to you guys being there. I'm afraid to say that it won't make the blindest bit of difference. Mark might get arrested again, maybe you will if you're lucky. The point is, it will make the news for 5 minutes. There'll be a small echo chamber of Jewish people and decent Brits who'll share share this, and then we'll see that this will just carry on and on and on. And as you said...
So don't you think the silent majority, they do agree with this? If they see the images of someone who just wants to go to see a football match, as I said, is
yeah,
my
but Josh,
right.
I mean, Jews got killed in synagogue, and some of us... Basically, us lot in this room have been warning about this for about, I don't know, 15, 20 years, constantly being told it's alarmist, it's over the top, don't exaggerate, you're far right, you're racist, you're stupid. And then they killed us on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar in a synagogue. Then this is just the icing on the cake of Islamist horrors and terror, and the icing on the cake of Britain not doing anything about it. And it breaks my heart to say this. I'm British, born and bred, I live here all my life. It's heartbreaking that the Jewish community still warmly embraces with such excitement every single non-Jew it finds who steps up to stand with us against racism. Why is that heartbreaking? Because there are so damn few of them that we still find it extraordinary when we find those good, decent people like Mark and others who stand up alongside us. I really think it's an opportunity for British Jews and for non-Jews in Britain to decide what they're going to do next. You said non-Jews can try and stand up against this visibly. Jews need to start thinking what their plan B is. Very seriously, they need to start making plans for what to do as this, not when it goes wrong, as it continues to go wrong, because this isn't viable anymore. Who would want to bring up Jewish children in this country now, thinking that it's like this now, in 10, 20, 30 years? How are those children going to be feeling in this country? Probably not how I felt growing up in this country in my childhood, and that is absolutely tragic.
It is tragic. Mm-hmm. I personally don't think that we're there yet. I mean, I am learning Hebrew, but I want to stay here. This is where I was born and raised as well. Do you think that this Thursday is one of those moments?
I think it's...
you are going.
I'm absolutely going. And I think it is depressing to hear Jonathan talk in this way, and I absolutely understand it. And it's not my job to say, and I wouldn't dare say, oh, don't worry, Britain will get better or anything like that. I would say to people watching and people who are not Jewish to really listen to what Jonathan is saying and ask yourself whether you want to live in a country that is unable to host Jews, where Jews actually fear for their safety and feel there is no place for them. And if you don't want to live in such a country, and I think there are, as you say, there's the silent majority. There's a lot of people out there who don't want to live in that kind of country. But I think they haven't yet realised quite, not the extremes of the racism that you described, but the knock-on, the consequences of tolerating this, the consequences of appeasement, of reactionary ideas, and the consequences...
It's no-go zones for Jews.
Absolutely.
Soon it's going to be no-go zones.
But you see, the thing but when you say no-go zone, you see, I think we shouldn't fall into the trap of imagining the picture of Whitechapel the other day, where everybody knows where there were young Muslim men going out there in response to UKIP and all this kind of thing. That obviously presents a certain type of no-go zone. But what we've got here is a no-go zone in a football ground that has been created by the Security Advisory Group, or Safety Advisory Group, whatever they're called, by Aston Villa Club, by the police, by Starmer not doing anything. He said, oh, we must do something about it. So in other words, we've got the establishment have created a no-go zone. And the only solution, that's why I say it's an opportunity on Thursday, the solution is ordinary people standing up and making a stand. It's not going to come from cowards like Starmer. Sorry to just quickly say, Starmer changed his tune after the ceasefire in Israel. That's when he suddenly became, and after the synagogue murders, of course. They could easily go back to exactly the kind of silence and anti-Semitic attitudes that they had during the war. So we cannot trust them. We need to rely on ordinary people.
I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. Other people are going to be there. Please do join us. You can follow Our Fight online. You can follow me online. I haven't actually worked it out yet, what I'm doing. I just know I'm going to be there.
Don't forget your hat.
Yes, I'll be there, yes, with my table tennis stuff on. Right, thank you very much to Mark Burbach and Jonathan Sacerdoti. In the past, MP Ayub Khan has said this is a deliberate, disingenuous move by many to make this a matter of banning Jews, to conflate matters of policing with those of religion. Those who are not welcome in Aston are the hooligans who have a long history of violence and vile racism. Well, that isn't me, and I'm going to be there, so we'll find out on Thursday. Next on Free Speech Nation, me and my fellow comedians will be answering some more crazy cultural conundrums from our live studio audience. See you in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. We're going to get some more questions from our audience, and our first question's from Adam.
Hi. Is doing a Nazi salute to a Jew a hate crime?
It's doing a Nazi salute to a Jew a hate crime. So, 2 Jews claimed they were subjected to intimidating chants of Globalise the Intifada and One Solution Intifada Revolution, as well as at least one Nazi salute by pro-Palestinian protesters in October last year. Both complainants provided witness statements to police who investigated. However, when the case was referred to the CPS, a decision was made not to prosecute. The Crown Prosecution Service only agreed to review the decision not to prosecute when lawyers for the 2 of the complainants applied for a judicial review. Do you remember this? This was at the JW3, I think. And I remember seeing images of this 80-year-old woman crying from the abuse that she received just going into an event, a Jewish event.
Jewish Community Centre about a year ago, really distraught woman. And the chants globalise the Intifada, we hear it all the time. Prime Minister has come out recently and said, yes, that is anti-Semitic.
Finally.
But the chants continue, the police do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back. I mean, I don't know, Steve, if the police didn't arrest a bunch of men. Well, they did arrest, actually, but the CPS seems to be part of the issue here because they didn't charge these men who drove through North London screaming about how they were going to rape Jewish mothers and children and daughters or whatever. Now they've been forced into saying, oh, actually, Zeke Heiling, a Jewish person, might be a little bit problematic.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like we could spend time with the original question, which I know is facetious, but you could if it weren't for the fact that everything seems to be a hate crime. So how is it hate crimes aren't hate crimes when some tweet that might vaguely offend someone is also recorded under some sort of hate act? So it seems bizarre. It seems like we're getting things the wrong way around.
Well, this is it. Simon, Andrew Doyle, he argues very eloquently that hate crimes themselves should be abolished. That the crime,
yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's. I think you've got to maintain the principle, and I regard the only useful way of saying something is a hate crime if it's a crime anyway, and then you can demonstrate that it was motivated by hate. That may be of some interest, but the simple expression of hate, however articulate, however vivid, however confrontational, should not in itself be a crime. No, I don't want to live in a country in which Zeke Heiling to anyone, if it's not otherwise a crime, would be regarded as a crime because it was motivated by hate. I don't think that's the same, incidentally, as driving through North London screaming that we're going to rape your children, which if they had been able to identify the suspects and bring that case to court, I believe that it was dropped because they felt that they would struggle with the evidence that was available. But that may very well have been, a problematic decision because we know the degree to which they're compromised in that regard. But I would prefer very much to stick with the principle that you err on the side of caution against raising the prospect of hate as a crime in and of itself. And I realise that you are yourself, very much activated by a concern that Jews are under the cosh left, right and centre at the moment. But I think we have to stand firm on this principle.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, principle, and then there's, of course, seeing this, two-tier element to it where...
I agree, but the two-tier element has to be attacked by removing the other, not by levelling up, but levelling down.
Well, fair enough.
In my view.
Sorry, yes, what would you like to say?
Well, can I just come back on that? Because what we're talking about is people on the streets shouting that they want to globalise the Intifada. That means killing Jews. Jews were killed in Manchester, so that does feel like a hate crime, and it's pretty abhorrent that the police stand by and do nothing, surely.
Like I say, honestly, I don't think you can eradicate a phrase like that, to globalise the Intifada as being a suggestion that a violent revolution be conducted in order to pursue aims that are in the Middle East. I abhor it. I absolutely abhor it, but I don't think it should be a crime to say.
It also comes down to intention as well.
Yeah.
Right. A CPS spokesman said this matter is currently subject to a judicial review. While this process is ongoing, it would be inappropriate to comment further. Our next question is from Jeff.
Hi, George.
Hey.
Will Police Scotland solve the mystery of the broken umbrella?
Oh, yes. Will Police Scotland solve the mystery of the broken umbrella? Parliamentary police officers have ordered a director for Women Scotland to attend a police station to face vandalism charges over a broken brolly after a complaint by a trans activist. Susan Smith, one of the third of the feminist group who took the Scottish Government to the Supreme Court on the definition of a woman and one, has been accused of minor damage to an umbrella at a rally outside the Scottish Parliament last month. We've got the clip. Steve.
Yeah.
She touched the umbrella. She touched a broken umbrella. What are we going to do?
This is good news. No, I know you probably expected me to push back, but I think this is excellent because it means that surely the police are investigating all crimes. Because if they got around to this one, it must mean they've investigated all that shoplifting that we were hearing they weren't doing. So as long as they've been doing that, absolutely. What's that? They've not been investigating the shoplifting. Then why are they looking at this?
Well, listen, and Simon, they actually have the gall to be requesting an extra 165 million for 600 new frontline officers for Police Scotland. Yet they're wasting their time on this absolutely, but he's sort of arguably doing the work of trans activists.
It's weird, isn't it, how frequently they say, well, we are tired of pursuing culture war issues, but as if they have absolutely no agency in the allocation of their resources. pitiful, absolutely pitiful. This individual sounds like he's a very vexatious miscreant who attends feminist marches and plays music loudly and tends to interrupt them and just provokes them into attacking his umbrella. So, yeah, I'd like to see that umbrella put beyond use, as it were.
Where the sun doesn't shine, yeah.
Fair enough. Our next question is from Gavan.
Good evening. Should good law follow the law?
Yeah, should good law follow the law? The England and Wales Cricket Board is facing legal action over its decision to ban those born male from competing in women's game, according to a report. The Good Law Project, a transgender rights group led by the activist lawyer Julian, whatever his name is, has written to the governing body of English cricket to demand that the decision, which was made just 2 weeks after April's Supreme Court ruling, be reversed. Simon, I thought this was all sorted. Men are men, women are women, fair sport.
Yes, well, Jolyon Moore has never seen a lost cause that he couldn't make a few quid out of, hasn't he? I wrote a very, very funny article about him for Spiked a few months ago, Tom Slater, who you had here earlier, editor, and I recommend it to your attention. But can still be found online. I mean, his record of succeeding in these cases is so absolutely dismal. It's extraordinary that people continue to fund him, and he seems obviously motivated by very private grievances as well. But he's particularly absurd in this case, yeah. He's trying to push the idea that cricket, being a non-contact sport, is one in which people's lives are not threatened. Just because it's not the same as trans boxers knocking out female boxers and possibly giving them brain damage, we should treat it more differently. It's still obviously the case where upper body strength and various other artefacts of testosterone give you an unfair advantage, and it's mind-boggling that he thinks that this is still something which is not utterly and completely over. But a lot of people carry on fighting these things long after the final blow.
Continue donating money because very quickly, Steve, this isn't banning trans people from sport. It's just saying play in the appropriate category according to your sex.
Yeah, I mean, one solution would be, yes, you can play cricket, but no boxers. And that might change who wishes to play cricket.
Next on Free Speech Nation, we reveal how pornography is rewiring our brains and why it affects us all. The authors of a brilliant new book will join us after the break. See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After recent heavy rain across parts of Portugal and Spain, they are generally seeing a drier interlude at the moment, and Iberia is looking dry over the next couple of days, although further rain is expected here as we head later on into the week. So reversal of fortunes for parts of Italy, the Balkans and Greece, though. They currently have the rain at the moment, some thunderstorms around as well. But this band of rain will continue its way eastwards, and so later on in the week it will return to drier and sunnier conditions for these countries.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. As we transition into the new working week, it is set to turn wetter and windier overall. Already this evening we are starting to see rain move in from the west, and this will spread eastwards across many areas overnight. It will turn heavy and persistent in places, particularly over some higher ground sites like northwestern England and parts of northwest Wales. Blustery night to come as well. But those winds are filtering in some very mild air, and so by the time we reach Monday morning, many of us will see double-digit figures when we're walking out the door. Despite the mild start to the day, though, do be prepared for a lot of cloud on the scene. It's going to be fairly damp and dreary for many. Further outbreaks of rain possible as you are heading to work. Some of those could be on the heavy side as well. The winds will be blustery right throughout the day. We could see gales in exposed coastal and mountain areas. Generally, if you are a little bit further towards the east, there is the greater chance, particularly in the afternoon, that we start to see the cloud breaking up a touch more. And maybe for parts of southeastern England, northeastern Scotland as well, we might start to see some sunshine emerging through. And generally, eastern areas will stay that little bit drier, with the rain more persistent out towards the west. But it is going to be a mild day right throughout, even despite the cloudy scenes, and temperatures will be peaking around 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. Our low pressure system is going to stay with us into Tuesday. A lot of isobars on the chart here indicating it's going to remain fairly unsettled. The occluded front generally draped northeast to southwest, and that's where we're going to see the bulk of the rain moving through on Tuesday. Potential for some quite heavy rain to move across southwest England into southern Wales at points as well. There's still some uncertainty in regards to exactly where that will be positioned, but certainly southeastern England, again northern Scotland, perhaps seeing some brighter spells moving through. But the unsettled and slightly mild theme is looking to continue right throughout next week. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. A new book, Pornocracy, warns that pornography doesn't just entertain, it uses us. It rewires our brains, normalises sexual violence and warps attitudes to sex and relationships. With AI porn on the rise, the book paints a chilling picture of a society at risk of becoming nothing more than algorithmic puppets. This is pornography's grip on humanity, and it's deeper than most people realise. I am pleased to be joined by the authors of Pornocracy, Robert Jessel and Joe Bartosz. Welcome to the show. First of all, Joe, let's talk about all the research you had to do for this book. No. What made you realise that there was such an issue out there and it needed the attention of a book to address it?
So, to be honest, my background is feminist activism, and I know many women who work in the women's sector, and they've told me about things like, for example, strangulation. Sexual strangulation now is something that 40% of Generation Z young women have experienced, and it's now very common for rape victims to find that their crimes are recorded. The crimes committed against them are recorded and made in pornography. So, you know, it is something that has fundamentally changed the way that people have sex, the way they relate to one another, and it's also having a devastating impact on sexual violence itself, because it's sort of being recorded, which is then sort of part of a cycle of replicated behaviour, if you like. So we've essentially had an unregulated social experiment on society for the past 20 years, since the advent of high-speed streaming. And I think the results are now playing out in classrooms, in bedrooms, in courtrooms. It is absolutely devastating. And if it was up to me, there'd be sort of daily Cobra meetings about it. It is that much of an emergency. And it sort of breaks my heart that people don't take it as seriously as they ought to.
Well, this is it. I think maybe because it has been so normalised, Robert, and what we've seen, obviously we had the Online Safety Act come in. That has had an immediate impact. I think Pornhub, which someone told me was a website, they've dropped 77% since that act.
So they say, yes. It's very difficult to know whether people are using VPNs or going to other sites. I think there's reasons to be cautiously optimistic about that drop in traffic. I don't think that regulation is the solution to all our problems, because I don't think that it stops the demand that Joe has mentioned that we have built up over the last 20 years. I think we need more fundamental solutions to answer the question of how we're going to get people's brains back on track, because they have been completely warped. And as Joe says, we're starting to see the results of this 20-year experiment.
Well, this is it. So, I mean, reading into the book and what happens, but one thing that struck me was certainly this idea that our brains have been rewired. And there was something else about the shaping of new protest movements, even. Now, that I haven't read the book yet, which you haven't given it to me, but please tell me, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think transgenderism is a movement that was born out of pornography. There is absolutely no way, if it hadn't been for the introduction of high-speed pornography, transgenderism would be such such a huge movement. So the stereotypes that these men base their womanly identities on are straight out of pornography. And there's a very specific genre called sissification pornography, where men sort of try to be almost like sort of really hypersexual stereotypes, like dolls. So the slogan, Protect the Dolls, is very much a reference to that is hidden in plain sight. And we've seen young women and girls as well wanting to identify out of their bodies. So in the very same way that men identify into these sort of pornographic stereotypes, young women are so repulsed by what they're seeing. Some of them are now identifying as non-binary and asexual because they don't relate to what they're seeing on screen. I mean, if you imagine being a young lesbian and looking online to try and find, you know, some sort of solace or understanding, what's the first thing you're going to come across if you type in lesbian? It'll be pornography. So, you know, it's very, the impact is so fundamental. And even things like surrogacy. I mean, that sounds like it's a million miles away from pornography, but actually, if you start sort of thinking of women as resources, if you start thinking of them as things to be sort of chopped up, if you like, then the idea that you can have a sex object or a mother object is very much from the same sort of deep part of the brain that has been impacted by pornography.
So Robert, you were saying about how, like, we can sort of make changes to fix a generation. How so? Is it? I mean, like you say, we've seen this drop in usage. It's also supposedly it's been mirrored on even Google. So it does suggest that people are watching less pornography. Do you think that will have this impact?
I think when you write a book like this, which identifies a social problem, usually in the last chapter there's you know, a ray of hope and there's a checklist of things that people can do. I'm afraid I can't offer anyone that hope. I think it's gone far too far. I think we have now not just one, but multiple generations that have been brought up on porn. I think I'm afraid I can't come here and offer a solution as such, but I think any fight back against pornography has to start with understanding what's going on. And I find actually the word pornography itself is not particularly useful because anyone can put their own map on that. If you're of a certain, if you're a boomer, say, then porn might be centerfolds, naked ladies and so forth. If you're Generation Z, then we're talking about high definition films, hours long, presenting rape-themed content. Incest is an incredibly popular category now. The violence, the choking, the slapping and so forth. And we're starting to see this, or sometime we've been starting to see this bleed out into the real world, the rise of extreme sexual practices like choking, like violence. So to your question, what do we do? My answer is save yourself. Save your family, and if you've got children in school, ask them what is being taught to them.
Well, that's interesting. You wrote an article for Spiked which talks about the kind of acceptance of porn as a default, and this is coming through the sex education classes and the third-party providers?
Yeah, I mean, it's you'd expect, you know, the basic thing that a sex educator might do would be to say, do not look at pornography, it will harm you. And that's not happening. They're actually sort of suggesting to them that it's something that can be enjoyed as a treat, is what one provider has said. Others are saying that, you know, there's no proof that it changes attitudes. Well, of course it does, because apart from anything else, we've seen, for example, widespread acceptance now of rape within marriage. So whereas boomers, 87% of them understand that you can rape your wife, that figure for Generation Y is just 42%. Now, I think it's quite clear that the sort of main social shift that we've seen around sexual roles in that time has been pornography. So it is having a profound and very serious effect. And schools should clearly be sort of doing something about it. Actually, to be fair, it was Rob who led on the research on schools. So that's his thing, really. So I don't know if you might have more to add to that one.
Did you sort of come out with a ray of light at the end of it? Because frankly, it sounds pretty depressing.
It is pretty depressing.
I mean, is the fact that we're even talking about this book is written, that it's out, is this where the conversation starts, that maybe solutions can be found, recognising there is an issue here?
So I think probably where I slightly differ from Rob is that I do think that legislation can have a positive impact. I also think, you know, as we've seen with the grassroots movement of women across the world, actually, against transgenderism, I think we could see the same thing against pornography, and we could really shift the dial if we get if we harness harness that anger and actually look to the source of what's sort of pushing transgenderism, which is undoubtedly pornography. So actually, I have some hope there.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck on your... But I imagine some people will find your book not intending it to be about that. They might get a sort of a bit of a shock, and they're like, oh, that wasn't the kind of porn book I was looking for.
Good.
Right, next on Free Speech... Oh, sorry, big round of applause, please. Joe Bartosz and Robert Jessel. Next on Free Speech Nation, the shocking pressures forcing artists to censor themselves and the fight to stop it. I'm going to reveal more after the break. See you in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Secretary is urging medical professionals to prescribe having a job as a form of treatment for anxiety and depression. West Streeting wants employment to be seen as being just as vital to health as diet and exercise. His comments come as the latest figures reveal there are more than 2.8 million people of working age who are economically inactive in the UK because of long-term sickness. Joining me now is a psychotherapist and broadcaster, Lucy Beresford. Lucy, good to see you. What do you make of this story? Prescribing going to work, basically?
In effect, that's what it's doing. And on the whole, I'm fully behind it because work is a very powerful mood lifter. It works on 3 levels, really. It gives you a sense of structure. It gives you somewhere that you have to go and to be there at certain times, maybe fulfill certain deadlines. It also gives you a sense of purpose. And we know from a lot of studies that when you have mental illness, and particularly when you have depression or anxiety, that sense of helplessness, worthlessness can be very debilitating, and it can send you on a downward spiral, make it very hard for you to get well. And yet if you have work, if you have a sense of purpose, if you have a mission, if you like, if you have goals, if you get improvements in your work and you get promoted, all of those things can be very beneficial. And the third thing, of course, is that in the workplace, we form human connections. We are very relational creatures, human beings. We come into this world physically joined to another person, and that is our template. We are longing for connection.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. A major new push for free expression in the arts has just been launched. Freedom in the Arts is running the UK's first ever sector-wide study into boycott, censorship and political pressure in culture. The initiative, called Art Without Fear, aims to uncover how fear of backlash is shaping what artists create and what venues dare to show. I am now pleased to welcome the dancer and choreographer who is the co-founder of Freedom in the Arts, Rosie Kay. Hey, there she is. Hey, Rosie, I have completed the survey that went out there. Talk about why you felt this was a necessity. I guess it comes down to needing information.
Yeah, so we're seeing that the arts have become really a battleground for political and ideological pressure across an array of issues. We've seen a lot developing around boycotting of artists, letters boycotting other artists, petitions, sponsorship links, and it's leading to a culture of extreme fear. And one of the things we wanted to do was think about, like, how can we actually support not just artists but also agents, promoters, managers and venues and festivals, start to kind of help them with a toolkit as to what to do, because it is going to happen to you no matter where you are in the arts. It's happening to everybody. What to do and how to kind of avoid making things worse, and then really kind of how to avoid the arts getting completely shut down entirely due to political pressure. So we need this survey. We need people. It's completely confidential and anonymised, unless you want to give your details, and then we'll follow up with you. We need people in the arts across all sectors, even if you work in an arts venue, if you're the CEO or a director, or if you're an artist of any shape or form, fill in the form. And so we can start to put together what the problems are, and then look at what some of the solutions could be. So those solutions, we're looking at press and PR, we're looking at legal routes, we're looking at sort of statements and how to sort of like deal with things. We're looking at governance, we're looking at security, all of these aspects. So we need to kind of people to be really honest with us and tell us what's happening. Because I think what I'm picking up is that people aren't necessarily talking to each other until a crisis happens, and then they go, oh God, what do I do now?
So this is bringing together artists across all the different mediums, I guess. Obviously, you come from a dance background. I come from a stand-up comedy background. But there has been a lot of connections across that, where you have venues being sort of utilised and fear being sowed to then literally cancel your gig. But sometimes it's very hard, though, isn't it, to put a finger on your cancellation in terms of people not returning calls? Is it just because you're rubbish, or is it because the word has gone out?
That's right, and I mean, this is what we found in our Afraid to Speak Freely report that Freedom in the Arts published in May, was that kind of horrible world of paranoia and sort of fear and loathing in the arts. I think somebody sort of very sort of profoundly said there was a culture of fear and loathing. So this one's a little bit like it's stemming also now into the venues and the agents and managers who are often trapped between the artists and the venues. And so we're trying to sort of really like pull apart a little bit more what could we do to help venues stand up to kind of when the mob come for you, when the political pressure comes for you. It's obviously what's happening is it's easiest to cancel the artist. It's easiest to cancel them and give a sort of blurry statement. But I have the feeling that lots of venues are very uncomfortable about doing that, but they're getting so much pressure and they don't know where to go to get some support. And the pressure can also be from inside their venue. Like often it can be staff or it can be online sort of forces. And some of this is really, really well organised and really well funded. And so I think we need to be as well organised and have a strategy so that we can say, no, actually the arts are the place where difficult subjects can be discussed, where amazing new work can be made, and we can have nuance and debate and discussion. The arts could be the solution to some of these problems, rather than the kind of political battlefield.
I mean, of course, I agree with you that that's arguably the role of art, but at the same time, so many of the decisions made by venues seem born out of cowardice, but you think that this might then give them a bit of backbone, hopefully, if they realise that they have legal backup.
And I think, like, it really hasn't happened in our recent history. So I think a lot of places have been quite slow to realise that this is a very concerted effort. And I think most people have just been sort of sticking their heads in the sand and hoping it will all go away and it will all get back to normal. Well, maybe it's not going to get back to normal, or if there is a normal, we're going to lose so many of our best and most talented artists, and completely unfairly too. So I have a feeling that leadership might need a little bit of a helping hand, shall we say.
Well, good luck. I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say that I've done it, Freedom in the Arts. You can go there and you can complete the survey. Thank you very much for joining us, Rosie Kay. So thank you also for joining me at Free Speech Nation. Thank you to my panel, my brilliant guests for this evening. And if you want to join us live in the studio, see you next week. Take care. Have a nice week.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.